Welcome back to another episode of the Barn Session Podcast. My name is Sammy Coakley, your host, joined here by my brothers Ryan and Reese Coakley, and today we have a special guest, two-time national champion, senior world champion, Vito Arujau. He's on the podcast with us today, here to talk to us about his experience in the sport and give his insight as one of the best wrestlers in the country. Vito, welcome to the show. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So to get things kicked off, we're going to go over the current events of what's happening in wrestling right now. We heard today that Russia, we talked about it last episode. They're boycotting the Olympics. The wrestlers said, we're not going to go compete if you won't let us all compete. And so everybody except for one wrestler has declined their bid into the Olympics. And that one wrestler is 65 kilo Russian wrestler Shamil Mamedov. And he's made the decision to go out and wrestle. Just want to hear what you think about this entire situation, and maybe what you would do in this position if you were put in this position, and what you think about all of it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's an absolutely, crazy thing. Obviously the fact that some of these athletes are getting, banned from competing, for whatever, obviously there are reasons according to the IOC, the Olympic Committee, but ultimately, I know for me, basically my entire wrestling career has led up to, basically now I have the Olympics. I've,
right.
Now that I've done the best I can within collegiate wrestling, I've entered in my senior level career. I won the world championships. For me, going to the Olympics is the only thing that I haven't done yet, and something that is my goal. Back in 2020 when it got canceled and it got postponed a year, when it was in 21, I took second at trials, and man, I know the pain of that, of being so close to achieving that. And even when I was the alternate, there were a couple times where there were some scares, twice actually, where I thought I was going to get to go. And ended up, Gilman kind of just pulled through and mustered up the strength and ended up going out there, and he took third, which is, pretty crazy. And then again this year, right when I got hurt and ultimately had to call my training and couldn't compete. So if it comes in 2028 and the U.S. wants to boycott the team, I'm going. This is like the peak of wrestling. Some people will never get another shot.
Right.
And this is some people's purpose for wrestling is to reach the pinnacle. The pinnacle is the Olympics. So
absolutely.
And granted, the same competition is at the World Championships. Yes, there's no difficulty increased in the Olympics, but the prestige, the worth, the just production of it means something to a lot of people. Obviously, if you ask anyone, would you rather be an Olympic champion or a world champion? In any sport, I almost guarantee they're all going to say the Olympic champion, right? So I understand the decision to go. I don't know what I would do in that situation. Obviously, I'm saying now, I would go, but then there's also the effect that comes with having solidarity as a country. That's powerful.
Right.
Something that, I don't know if we would have the same, behavior, say Kyle, and well, I don't even know. Say last year they wouldn't let Kyle and David Taylor and a couple other of our most esteemed guys not go and compete. I don't know what our response would be as a country. Would we not send anybody? Because at the same time, there's this sense of loyalty to my country, but also loyalty to myself. Am I being fair to me?
Right.
And all of the work that I've put into it. If you feel that, obviously your country is adequately supporting you, and has become a large part of that source of why you wrestle, then I definitely see the argument for unifying and making a statement, because ultimately, like, they felt it was unjust, the fact that they wouldn't let those athletes compete. That effect is going to be felt this Olympics for sure. Without Russia there, without a lot of their hard hitters, it's not going to be the same, right?
Right.
You had some guys who, I mean, just about all of them who were competing for an Olympic medal. Um, and in a sport where the top echelon of those weight classes comes down to 4 to 5 guys, taking one of those guys away, you're going to feel that impact. So, I get the argument for it. I get the argument against it. I feel bad for them. Obviously, they, the argument of whether or not they deserve it is something else. But just the fact of you've made the Olympics and now you can't go, is something that I would never wish on anyone, because, it hits close to home. I don't like it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, what would you want? So if you weren't allowed to go compete, would you tell Kyle Snyder and Kyle Dake, hey, go get your Olympic gold. Like, you don't have to boycott, for me. What would you want in that position?
I would want them to go. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks for me, but like, ultimately, I'm not gonna, restrict. I mean, especially to a lot of the athletes for Russia. Like, if this is your first Olympic Games, this could be life changing.
Absolutely.
Nobody remembers who made the team every year, but everybody remembers who won, who took third, who took second. If you medal at the Olympic Games, it could change the trajectory of your entire career, of your entire life, especially for those
Right.
athletes who aren't necessarily open to the same opportunities that we have here, So
Yeah.
in that respect, like, oh no, I would not ask for anyone to sit out for me. But once again, I get it. If it's a unified decision, and they all feel the same, just as unfair, because they're targeting a certain country. So I
Right.
understand it, but in the same time, whereas, like, maybe in the U.S. we don't necessarily, like, we're all a part of Team USA, but we're all living in different areas. Like, I'm very good friends with all the people on the team, but they're not like, I wouldn't ask them to sacrifice that much for me, I guess,
Right.
is what I'm trying to say. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm, they don't owe me anything. Obviously terrible thing that's happened, but yeah, I would let them compete for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It makes sense that you mentioned that, if, especially for a younger guy, that can change your trajectory. Shamil Mamedov is 23. And so,
Yeah.
Sajulaev's been to the Olympics twice. Sidakov's already gotten an Olympic title, which he wasn't one of the ones boycotting. But so some of the older guys, yeah, I could definitely see them using this as an opportunity to make a stand and say, this, what you're doing to my country isn't right. Well, Shamil Mamedov is saying, like, hey, I got to go get my Olympic gold still, guys. So I'm gonna go do that. So
Yeah.
I get
I mean,
that. Absolutely.
I see no issue with that, honestly. I can't say I would do any different in a situation, like myself, like I said, myself, I haven't been able to go to 2 Olympic Games. Most athletes only get 2, 3, maybe 4 tries at it in their entire career.
Yep.
I'd have a hard time saying that I'm not going.
Right. Well, I mean, that makes total sense to me.
do we think Mamedov is gonna go back to Russia after this year, or is he? Will they let him back in, or what's happening there?
Is there a fear?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different question entirely, right?
Right. Yeah.
Especially if, now, I will say, if he does medal, he doesn't have to. He can go wherever he wants. Like, every country will want him, and that's like, and if it is a bit of a gamble, because you're basically declaring that your wants and needs are outweighing the country's, right? Which is a statement. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a gamble. Well, and you know, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, we can move on from that. Uh, Obviously, looking forward to the Olympics.
I would
And
just like to say that wrestling is an individual sport. And so, if you as an individual want to go and, you represent yourself and your country, then you should be allowed to.
absolutely,
With
totally.
no
Yeah,
with no
man.
hard feelings of anyone else. That's what I think.
So with that, I guess I can kind of use this as a bridge to the one of the questions that I had here, because you were training and getting ready to wrestle at 57 kilos to go compete at the Olympic trials, or to yeah, and then the Olympics at 57 kilos. Do you have any insight from your perspective? The guys that you are most interested in seeing at that weight class and seeing how they do. Um, what's your perspective like for this?
Yeah, I mean, 57, I think, is one of the more interesting weight classes because, I mean, especially how it's kind of panned out over the past couple of years, it's going to be pretty crazy. I feel like I honestly, I think it's going to come down to draw. A lot of it is going to come down to matchup,
Yeah.
because certain guys have certain styles, uh, and I don't necessarily know how it's all going to play out. Obviously, the front runners, right? You got people who can medal, right? You have Spencer, you have Abakarov, you have Stevan Micic, you have um, well, I guess not Aguyev, but you have Ray Aguchi. You have so many really talented guys, and I'm very curious to. I mean, it's gonna be a day of wrestling. Right? It's gonna be a day of very very high level wrestling, and it's gonna be amazing
Yeah.
to watch. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for it. As for how it's gonna play out, like man, I can see any of those guys placing 1, 2, or 3. And
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if Spencer won, took second, took third. I wouldn't be surprised if um, if Abakarov won, took second. Stevan, he can fit in any list. It's just really up to they're just they're all high level in different avenues. Where like you have Spencer, who is just like a force on top, and I'll tell you, like his grip and his core strength is like uh, a noticeable feature where I'm like, wow, that's really good. You have
Yeah.
when I wrestled Abakarov, I wrestled him at 61 kilos this year. He has some of the best like feel of danger and like defense. I got to his legs one time, and I think I pride myself as being a very offensive. I'm gonna have multiple actions in my matches, and he shut me down pretty well.
Yeah.
And as well as his drags and things. He has offense as well. Very, sturdy, just kind of, it's going to be a close match. Then you have Higuchi, who I've never wrestled, but like he's, just an absolute animal at attacking and creating this movement and like this side to side, and he's just put things together. And then you have, like Stevan, who's very methodical and is, I'm good friends with Stevan, and his thought process of how he's working through it is very interesting as well. So,
Hmm.
like I said, I actually can't predict how it's going to play out. I'm not smart enough, but I'm going to be super excited to watch.
I think the smart call is to say that we won't know until it happens, and if we played it out 10 times, we'd get 10 different results. So
I agree.
I
I
think,
agree.
yeah, yeah, that's how I see it. uh, okay, so with that out of the way, I wanted to do just a quick recap. We kind of talked about it before we started recording, but there's been this period in your life that has basically been a nonstop, not necessarily sprint, but it's the you've been on go from the start of your junior season in college, from that beginning of that season, all the way until basically the end of your senior season, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
a year and a half, and a year and change. The your foot was on the pedal the whole time. You were on go. You won a national title your junior year, made the senior world team, won a senior world title, and then won your national title your senior year, and then we kind of had to stop. Right, we had to before the Olympic trials, trying to cut down from 61 to 57. The weight cut topped off with the injury. Things started to really compile, and so took taking a break, kind of re-gearing, reloading for I'm guessing this non-Olympic year, right? Or this non-Olympic worlds that we're seeing this year. We'll see you at 61 kilos is my guess.
Yeah, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
When I took my break, uh, I didn't want to commit to it because I felt like it would take away from the break. Because I didn't want to set a limit on my break. I don't want to say, oh, I'm going to take 2 months off and then come back, right?
Yeah.
Because that feels like it's not much of that. That's not what I needed. Um, I needed some time to, obviously work on myself, work on, you know, when I start training for competitions, everything just kind of fades away, right? When I'm in the room, I don't think of anything else but wrestling.
Right.
And I'm in the room a lot. So it's not a whole lot of thinking of other things, which, has presented a couple issues. So taking some time to focus on the other aspects of my life is very important as well. And usually you get that, but, and the spree I was on, that back to back to back to back to back, I think started as we got out of COVID, because I went into my sophomore year of college from there, and I wrestled the NCAA's. I wrestled U23 trials. I won the trials. I went to U23 Worlds, um, and then all of that, and then I went to NCAA's, and then the U.S. Open, and then that trials, and then Worlds, and then NCAA's, and then so it's been just this constant jumping from one tournament. As soon as I'm done, I get about a week, couple days to recover, and then I'm back to training. So taking the time to feel a little less, obviously, like I'm in the trenches, like I'm in the fight all the time.
Right.
It's been good for my health, mentally, physically, and so I didn't want to necessarily make like a due date of coming back and preparing. I was just like, well, let me just see how I feel. So I'm back in Ithaca now. I've done a bunch of clinics this summer. I've took some time to take my girlfriend out on some dates. I've hung out with my friends. Things that are important in life. But now that I'm back in Ithaca, I've gone to a couple practices. I feel pretty good. My skills are pretty sharp still. And I'm tired of feeling out of shape. So I think I'm going to get back into shape. And if I'm feeling good, come a month from now when I've been training, then yeah, I think I will take up the trials. Currently, I am sitting in the finals because of my gold medal from last year. So,
Right.
pretty good spot for me. I can't imagine I'm going to say no, but I don't want to necessarily commit to it yet. We'll see how training goes. We'll see how my injuries, they're basically healed now, but I still have to do some rehab work to fine tune some things before I start feeling like I'm 100% again.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that totally from my end makes the most sense to it's, if you don't have to commit to something right now, then don't, right? Especially when it comes to health. So that totally makes sense to me. But to dig into kind of some of the things that I think are interesting from what's happened in your junior and your senior season. With you had a nearly flawless junior year. You had one loss. You avenged it, and you beat soundly beat the top guys at your weight class your junior year. And then you go off and you win a world title. You're at the top of the world, literally. And you do all that. You come immediately into your senior year. You have your first competition. You're wrestling against a freshman, and he manages to steal one from you, right? That experience of going from all the way up here right down to here, but still finding a way to finish at the top of the podium at the end of the year, right? So you have this especially when you're going to have to wrestle this guy again at conferences, and if things play out the right way, you're going to wrestle him again at nationals, which is exactly how it panned out. What was the learning experience that you drew from that entire experience?
This year has been a bunch of learning experiences for me. I think it definitely helped me mature a little bit, because ultimately I won the world championships off of determination and skill and my preparation and also some luck. I think there's a little bit of luck in everything that we do, but ultimately, once you win the world title, it doesn't mean you're the best wrestler in the world.
Okay.
And by that I mean there was a little bit of that. I'm standing on the top, nobody can beat me. The fact that I literally beat the entire world, I'm the best. There was a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And then the quick realization that no, I can lose. I'm just a person who is good at wrestling. I have the ability to produce very good wrestling. I am very hard to beat. My style is unique. It is very offensively minded, right? But I can lose. I have holes and I have so many flaws in my wrestling still. I'm very, very far from perfect. It was such a little flaw as the fact that I reach with my right hand, and Crookham seeing that and forming an entire game plan around it, and seeing where I get frustrated sometimes in matches when people disengage with me and kind of back up, it gets me frustrated. I get mad, and then I chase them down. And then if he circles to the left and then I reach with my right hand, it creates an entire huge opening where most people wouldn't be able to shoot it on that leg because my reaction time is so high. And then he formulates Yanni's double step shot with the shoulder turn, and it completely my reactions take over. He steps over that leg. I have to take it back. It's not even a thought. It's just subconscious. That leg goes back, and then I'm very open, right? So kudos to him and his team to be able to see the flaws that I have. And yeah, it was humbling. And then from that tournament, the journeyman, obviously, I've gone on to say this before, but that was the first tournament back of the season is where I got hurt. I got a pretty bad concussion in the semis of that tournament. Then, something that I'm still working on, now is not underestimating any opponent. I know that I've had success, but being able to lock in and do my best against literally everybody is what I'm working towards. Because sometimes it's hard, right? I've just gone from the world championships and now I'm wrestling in a high school gym where I don't even have a warm-up area. I have to warm up in the corner of the mats while matches are going on. And it's I'm just why am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so it's being able to lock in and do your best every time is obviously impossible. Some stakes are higher. I tend to wrestle better when I have better opponents, when I have something on the line, when it matters. I ante up. I like it. I like the pressure. But when it feels like this, why am I here, is when I get a little lackadaisical and I don't compete necessarily as well as I think I should. Which is something that it's a flaw of my wrestling. It's a flaw of who I am, right? So that's something I have to work on. And the learning curve of obviously like, I lost to him. Well, I got hurt the match before. It's a fluke. Like I'm watching him wrestle during the season. He's not even that good. You know, he's beating some good guys, but it's like I don't know. I'm still not very impressed by him. I think I got him, but then it's the whole uh, nature of the injury where it wasn't necessarily like I got hurt and I can like, uh, you know, it didn't take me out all the way. It's not like I broke my leg where,
Right.
there's no way I can wrestle. Uh,
Yeah.
there is a way I can wrestle, but the way that I can doesn't allow me to wrestle how I want.
Yeah.
So because
You
of
have to alter the nature of your style to accommodate.
and I can't do my best things was the worst thing. So I, spent my entire life, a lot of my focus on developing these skills, and now I can't use them. So it was ultimately very frustrating for me. So overcoming all of the mental difficulties that came with it as well. Obviously, it sucks that these things happen, but they lead to a lot of growth. I think some of the most growth I've ever had is from when I lose. When I lose
Right.
matches, when difficult things happen in my life, when I'm met with these challenges and I have to overcome them, is ultimately when I feel like I grow the most as a person, as a wrestler. So trying to keep that attitude while in the thick of it was very difficult. But ultimately, I think wrestling him at EIWAs, I did the same thing. I overlooked him. As the match is going on, I'm like, I was so focused, I was ready, and now I'm winning, and I'm like, what was I even scared of? This guy's not that good, and he got me. Last minute,
Yeah.
he
Right.
got me.
Mhm.
Oh, but that's that waking up point where I was like, Vito, you're an idiot. This guy's really fucking good. He kept his cool the entire time, even though like he didn't want to tie up with me because he tried tying up with me in the beginning of the match, and I arm dragged him and took him down. He was like, "Oh, I can't tie up
Right.
with him." I beat him in every single position, and I was like, and he was just it felt like he was just running at that point because he was like scared, and I was like, "Get over here!" And then fell right into his play, and then he shot in, got a takedown, right? I get out immediately, and then he does it again. And then as I go to escape, right, I hurt my knee, and then last 30 seconds of the match is just nothing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm reminded once again, I can lose. I'm not as good as I think I am, right? And I had plenty of close calls during the season, that were stemming from like my injury and stuff. But overcoming all of that, and immediately after, and like I was on like a recovery plan, and I saw the results of that recovery plan like the day after EIWAs when I came home, and I was like, I actually didn't get that many stingers. I think I can just wrestle how I want. I mean, I might as well find out, right? I got 2 weeks. What am I?
Right.
What do I got to lose? I wrestled a real practice, doing the things that I usually did, and I was, pretty fine. And I was like, wow, I think I can do this. And then, because previous to EIWAs, where my injury was and things, like I was very close to just calling it, especially with the Olympic trials immediately following it, like just taking forfeiting my senior season and trying to get this under control, and trying to, kind of ante up for trials. Because ultimately that was, I mean, it was the more important thing to me. Maybe the more important thing, like as a school, as a program, was the NCAA, and like obviously I have a lot of loyalty of you know uh, responsibility for the program. I feel responsible for the program, so I wanted to wrestle at NCAA's, but ultimately, like, yeah, I'd never been to the Olympics. I won this
Yeah.
last year, not like it was less important, but like it kind of was. Um, but I stayed in it. I stayed in the fight, and ultimately I got rewarded at the very end, where I saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and I can just kind of wrestle like myself, and that's what I did at NCAA's. Um, and then I ended up wrestling, not my best, but comparable to what I usually do, and was able to win. Do I think that maybe hurt my chances to compete in Olympic trials? I don't know. I have no idea. What we can't know for certain, so I can't blame it.
Yeah.
For all I know, if I didn't keep wrestling and doing the things that I did to try to be able to, because I was doing recovery like a madman, trying to get ready for NCAA's, and it all kind of paid out. So, I have no regrets for the way that things shaped out. I think that was the way it was meant to, which sucks for me, but ultimately another challenge to overcome, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed watching you wrestle this season. That's all I'll say about it.
Thanks,
what was your mindset going into that third match against Crookham? Since we're on that topic, I was just curious about how your mindset in each of those matches, and you kind of talked about it in those first two, but I'm curious about how what you did a little bit differently in that third match to kind of really just stomp on him.
I think the main differences were I was able to wrestle how I usually did, which maybe I wasn't able to in the first match because I was maybe a little worn down from the training, a little maybe I from hitting my head the match before, whatever it was, but I didn't feel like I wrestled like myself that match.
Right.
Like even looking back and being able to like look at my mistakes, I feel like I couldn't use any of that footage because like that wasn't me wrestling, right? Paired that with the fact that I overlooked him, that in that match, like I basically the I was thinking about pulling out from the finals match because I had gotten hurt, and I was like, this is stupid. Why am I here, right?
Right.
But there was a rule change this year where if you forfeit in the middle of a tournament, it counts as a loss on your record,
Yeah.
which I think is a stupid rule. Obviously, it was getting abused by Big Ten and all of them, but basically, I would have had to take an L in the first tournament of the season and give up my chances of winning the Hajj, which I had never won before. I wanted to, and I'm a top contender for it.
Right.
So I didn't want to do that, and then ultimately I ended up, losing anyways. So, but yeah, it's all fine now. But I think the main shift for that match 3 was obviously at this point it's not a fluke. He's beaten me twice. This guy's good. I had a little bit of more urgency of respect for him. I had been shown to his game of the second match really gave me a lot of data that I could use because I felt like I did try in that match to win a little bit more than the first time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I could break down what actually he was doing a little bit more and what was working against me and what I needed to look at. So I was able to fill the holes in my game. And then couple that with like what my mindset was. Whenever I try to compete my best, my mindset is like a combination of very calm but very focused, and like I try not to think like at all. Because ultimately, like for someone like me who's very like speed based, I have to have a very high reaction time. I have to like be able to put things together. I need to be able to make things happen, and if I sit around during the match thinking about that, that's time that I'm not doing anything.
Right.
So the less I can think, the more I can just do, the better for me. And having a calm, sound mind to make, good decisions on the fly, like just subconsciously, not flustered, and that was something that I had to deal with in the finals match. Not being flustered and being able to have a sound mind in a brawl, basically.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just kind of sticking to kind of the crux of what got me to have my success was a lot of the work I did on the sports side of my training, and being able to like replicate a performance. Um, so I think ultimately like all those things together kind of really helped me.
Nice. Excellent.
Gotcha.
Do you think Crookham is the front runner for next season for the 2025 NCAAs, or do you think Nasir Bailey maybe has like maybe a higher ceiling or something? I don't know. You wrestled both of them, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Obviously, like you want to say that Crookham has the front runner because took me out twice and finished up taking third, right? Where me and Dayton are both graduated now, right? So he is the number one ranked guy going into the season. How do I
No,
think that?
Nasir Bailey. Did you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, he heard
Yeah,
you.
what's up?
He was explaining
Oh.
it to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you thought I said Dayton.
No. You're good.
Okay. My bad.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no. So yeah, Crookham is Crookham took third at NCAA Blaze, did he not?
Yeah,
No, he
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
he
right.
did.
He did. He did.
Yeah, so he'll be the number one guy going into next season for sure. But as how NCAA's for next year are going to look, I mean, ultimately, right? Like, if you looked at this tournament, you would have thought that Crookham was going to beat me again, probably. Like, I was the 7th seed. I was injured the entire year. Like, on paper, I would have counted me out too. But obviously, worked out a little different than that. I would have told you that if it looked how it did on paper, Dayton was going to win. But honestly, if they had wrestled a match, I don't know how it would have shaped out then either. So ultimately, like, yeah, we're gonna have to see how it plays out. I think Nazir has a lot of room for improvement on the technical side. I think his speed, his strength, is very top tier. I think he's very much offensively minded, which I think is important to have as a wrestler. Obviously, like the only way you win is to have more points. So scoring points is the most important thing. I mean, is the way I think about it, right? I think that being passive and like the whole game plan like doesn't mean anything if you can't score, right? So
Yeah.
him
I feel the
if he
same
can
way.
improve like his tactics a little bit and his techniques, I think he can do very well. Obviously, Crookham is definitely pretty dangerous in my mind. I think he can do pretty well again next year. Just very strong, very headstrong as well. He's got a good. I mean, like I was saying before, I was beating him up in that second match, but he kept calm the entire time and was able to implement his plan, which is impressive. And then you have other people like Frost did well this season. Ragusin did well. I seeing how they fit into the mix as well is going to be interesting. Does Kyle Rini have another year, or is he out?
Yeah, he does. He would have been the other one I would have
so
mentioned.
he's gonna be in there as well.
Him and
Schauber,
then
maybe?
that Lucas Bird from Illinois, he's coming back.
Yeah.
He's got another year.
Oh, Bird as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously, who we send as a team, with me leaving the lineup, we're looking at, obviously we have Ethan Qureshi, who was my backup this year. We have Brett Unger, who might be making a move up, unconfirmed, but possible. People could be moving down, who knows? But I think whoever we send will be a top tier contender as well, for an All-American spot. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. Obviously, no skin in the game now. So
Yeah.
So to lean into that, Reese, you had you had showed me one of the questions that you were going to ask, and I thought that this one was really interesting. Actually, I'll let you go ahead and ask it.
Oh, well, which one is it?
It's the
Go ahead
toughest.
and ask it, Sam.
I know what was the toughest opponent that you had ever wrestled?
Sorry, what was that?
What was the toughest opponent that you had ever
And
wrestled?
I wanted to also add in folk style and freestyle, like if there's a difference for you.
So I've been asked this question before, but like toughest that I won or toughest and I lost, because that makes
just
a
that you
difference.
wrestled. Period. Just whoever.
Who creates the most challenges for you? Whether you win or you lose, who created the most challenges for you?
That's a great question. You know, like I've definitely had a lot of growth within the sport. So like, you know, the so but looking back, like in my career, right? Like when I was a little bit younger, a little like less, you know, obviously those losses has helped me get better, and I think that's one thing that I've really done well in my career is to make improvements, constant little improvements, you know, and taking those with me as I move forward, right? So, I tend not to do very poorly against this same opponent over and over again. You know, obviously Crookham this year was something else, but you know, ever. I had a real tough time getting past Thomas Gilman. Obviously, beat me out for the Olympic team spot two matches in a row. Beat me in a ranking series over in Nice during COVID, and then beat me out for 2 matches in a row for the world team trial spot the next year. Just someone that I mean, and someone that I'll never get to wrestle again, which is super fun to think about. But yeah, he dogged me every single time. You know, the first match, first match he pinned me, which is super fun. Or no, the first match was in Nice, so I lost 5-2, I believe. And then the first match at the Olympic trials, I was losing like 6-4. And I tried to throw him and threw myself right to my back and pinned myself with like 2 seconds left. And then I lost 3-2 in the second match. Yeah, that one hurt because I was literally on a go behind. I like had his arm. I was about to time run out. I was like, no. And then
I get that one. I remember that. I thought you.
I thought I was too. And then obviously, you know, I go on to wrestling again at the World Team Trials the year after, and you know, at this point, I'm like, I got him. Like, I have a game plan going into this, and then he texts me 2 matches in a row. So, yeah, that definitely contributed to, I think, me growing up a weight class. You know, I think it became pretty obvious to me that, you know, how I could wrestle was being severely limited by the weight cut. And I, you know, my ceiling right now isn't very high, but I can do better than this.
Right.
So that, you know, is kind of why I went up. So I think Gilman was probably, you know, my toughest opponent. I think he gave me a lot of challenges, but also a lot of growth as well. Obviously, I'm being floodgated right now. I can't make the world team. But the guy who's in front of me is literally a world champion. You know, took third at the Olympics. So, like, if I can get past this guy, I think I can do very well on the world stage. You know, so he definitely gave me probably some of the most trouble. And then besides that, it's Yanni from when we were kids. And even still today, like, I still can't even really beat him. Now he's a little bit bigger than me, so it's like it's more okay. But I think
cheating.
Yanni's it's cheating. Yanni, I think me and Yanni's record is like 7-1, 8-1. Because usually when I lose to people, I don't really like go on sprees
back and forth.
of losing. Like, I usually trade. I usually win, lose, win, something like that. And I just got shut out by both of those guys for a while. So it's good stuff.
So, man. Oh yeah, you mentioned trying to throw Gilman and then going straight to your back. Throws have never been your strong suit, have they?
Sometimes it
Right?
works. Sometimes it
I
works.
One of my favorite clips of you wrestling is at the Cleveland State Open. You're wrestling Mickey Philippi,
Oh my
and
god, I'm wrestling.
you're like, I think you're about to tech him, and there's like 2 seconds left in the third period, and you scream yeet, and I think you try and lat drop him, and you go straight to your back.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I
gotta be
did.
one of my
Awesome.
favorite
No, it was
videos.
bad. Now I will say after what is it? After COVID, because we had this guy Rustam Ampar
Yep.
come up and he was training with us. He got me a lot better at throwing, specifically the like lat drop and upper body stuff. And I mean, he was also the one who got me to start hitting arm drags, which is funny.
Yeah.
And then I kind of made it my own and got real good at them. But I've had a couple good throws, like the ones the memorable ones are obviously like I suplexed Nashon at Final X this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And then I wrestling Dayton in the U.S. Open in
Yes.
2019.
Yes, that one was good.
He went to go inside trip me and I just picked him up and like slammed him. But
Yes.
Yeah.
so I don't even really know if that's a throw, but like it was 4 points.
Right.
I think those might be my only successful like good throws besides a chest lock.
Yeah.
The fixed throw, I remember being there. I was there in person. I was like, holy cow. And the whole crowd was like, oh, that was cool.
No.
Yeah, because I mean the first match was an absolute brawl, right? And then you're like super
Yeah.
excited it's about to start, and then it happens. You're like, ah.
Yes.
Boom.
I had no idea. Like, I did not think of that at all. I just like level changed, and he went to grab my head, and I like slipped it, and I was behind him, and I stood up, and I was like it
Might
just
as well.
locked.
Yeah.
Might as well, and it just worked out perfectly, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, crazy stuff.
I think I want to get into this. So your father, 2-time world champ, Olympic bronze medalist, and from my perspective, he's raised you and your brothers as wrestlers and has done a pretty damn good job. What kind of inspiration or motivation do you draw from him and what he's done? Is there any pressure, or is it just kind of this uplifting presence from someone so close to you, who's been at the top of the sport?
I think it's changed over my lifetime. So my dad was my coach, basically until like from the day I started until I went to Cornell. He was my coach that entire time. So I started wrestling in like 5th, 6th grade. I was probably like 10 or 11 until I was 18. So for that whole time, like he was my one coach. And I feel like when I got to college, especially when I got onto the senior level, my respect for him kind of skyrocketed. Not like I didn't respect him, but like my respect for him as a wrestler. Because obviously you hear like dad, like world champion, he's Olympian, like he's really good. But you don't know what that really means when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Until you're literally standing where he stood. And then you're like, wow, like that's crazy. He did this like 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 I won one world title, and I feel like I can't imagine kind of like how good he was in his prime. Like I would have loved to have been able to wrestle him when he was competing.
Right.
So in that respect, like he and also I realized obviously growing up, like he taught us a lot of fundamental wrestling, kind of what he thought was like the basics, and as like a kid, as freshman, sophomore in high school, like I started getting good. I'm like, Dad, like I want to do these things, and he's like, no, do this, and I'm like, well, like I want to do this, and he's like, so we would bicker back and forth, and it ultimately come down to like, "Are you world champion?" I'd be like, and like walk away, like.
Yeah.
But then like when I started competing against other senior level guys, especially internationally, I realized that it like all was super applicable. It all kind of came back to me. I was like, oh, the things that he's been telling me my entire life, like those are very important now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so, and then it clicked in my head, like he wasn't teaching us these things because he thought we were like bad at wrestling. He was teaching these things to try to prepare us for if we ever tried to, reach the pinnacle.
Right.
Which was something that like kind of changed my perspective of like, my relationship with him. I just have so much respect for him to, one, have the foresight, right? Like, be able to teach it to like a young kid and like have us like remember it and stuff. Like that's, and then, obviously, yeah, like my respect for him as a competitor is second to none. I definitely go to him for advice when like because I want to hear his input. Whether or not I'm going to use it is different, but I want to hear it. I want to hear what he has to say because he comes from,
Right.
And yeah. So at this point in my life, it's definitely a very uprising motivation. Obviously, he's still my dad. We still have our differences. We still, get into some arguments sometimes, but like,
Right.
I'm definitely very grateful because he's contributed a lot into my career, into who I've become as a man, and I'm very thankful.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that you're kind of sitting there after an experience and you're just like, shit, Dad was right.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely had that multiple times already. So.
Yeah. He's been wrong about a bunch of stuff. But
yeah,
the wrestling is kind of all been right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
How often when you were growing up did you were you in the Nassau room wrestling with those college guys?
A decent amount, not super often because obviously we had our wrestling club, and then I was I had to go to my school practice, so it's like I went to school all day and then had to go to practice for the school where I didn't really do anything. I just had to be there, and then I would go to my real practice after that, which was just so I'd leave like 8 or 9 in the morning, go to school, and wouldn't get back until 9 p.m. So it was just like it was difficult to like get out there very often. But like during the weekends, I would go out and wrestle with the Nassau guys. But yeah, we had some good guys in our club as well. So I feel like I got pretty kind of the best I could have.
Right.
As we're starting to come up on short time here, I've got a list of what I'm calling speed round questions. They're really just don't think too quick, don't think too much about it. Just kind of quick, short and easy answer. So I'll give you an easy one first: cardio or weightlifting?
Cardio.
Okay. Favorite wrestling shoe?
What'd you say?
Favorite wrestling shoe?
Spartan Yanni ones.
Perfect.
Quick
of course.
plug.
What else would you wear? Yeah.
Quick plug.
Best post weight cut food or drink?
Training lab. Post weigh-in shake. Also plug. Link in bio.
Perfect. Best country to visit / compete in?
I really, really want to go to Japan, and I've never been.
Okay, yeah. So that's the one you're looking forward to?
I really want to go to Japan, but yeah. I don't know. Like, Russia's pretty. I really like Budapest. Budapest was really fun.
Yeah. Favorite anime?
One Piece.
Woohoo!
That one's gotta hurt, Sammy.
Yeah, that one stings. Favorite Cornell memory?
Favorite Cornell memory? winning NCAA's the first time, and then Yanni winning his fourth, and then we took third as a team. That's definitely maybe my favorite.
Pretty good combo.
Memory of college.
Yeah. One thing you wish you could have told yourself before college. So you go back to 2017. You're in Varna.
I thought you said don't think too much about it.
Yeah, you gotta tell yourself quickly. You gotta grab 2017 Vito by the shoulders. You gotta say, "Do this."
Work on yourself, man. Fix your brain.
Yeah.
What a question.
Do sports psych. Go to yeah, I don't even know. Fix your diet, fix everything. Just fix yourself.
Fix
man.
it all. Fix it all. Okay, and then what made you switch from like your earlier like comb over hairstyle to just going buzz cut and saying, "Yeah, I'm done with hair"?
Leading into the World Team Trials in 22, where I was wrestling Gilman in Stillwater. My hair was super overgrown. It was in my eyes. My beard was super big, and I was like, this is enough. And like, I was like, I'm gonna shave my head. I went to the barbershop. I was like, can you just like shave? Like, it's like, you want me to shave your
Buzz
head?
cut $0.
Like a 2 on the top, like a skin on the sides. He's like, okay. And then I left the beard, and everyone kind of liked it. I liked it a lot. It was dope. I just shaved my head. My hair's a little longer now, but as soon as I start getting back to competition, I think I'm gonna shave it again. I like it.
Yeah. Any last things here, brothers? You guys got anything?
Do I have any last what?
No,
Asking Ryan and Reese if they have anything. Any last questions?
no, I'm good. I got a lot of good stuff here.
No. Reese?
Well, I did have some other questions. Let me look at these real quick. What were my other questions? Actually, Sammy, you got them pulled up.
Oh my goodness, Jimmy.
Okay, I'll pull them up for you real quick.
I got 'em
Reese.
right
No, I got them right here. They're right here.
There you go.
Oh, do the last one.
The last one?
Yeah.
The last one's. Man, I want to do the third. Okay, if you hadn't gone to Cornell, where would you go?
Oh, I don't know. Cornell was kind of my only. I actually didn't visit any other school. My brother went to Cornell, my older brother, and it kind of felt like a no-brainer because it's got it's the best smart wrestling school.
Right.
It's it's the top of the Ivy League by far, and it's it's competing with all the other schools, so it just felt like kind of a no-brainer to me. If I had to go back, I was thinking about going to Harvard, and then that was it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask this third question. Who would you? I mean, I don't know if you've thought about this at all, but who would you like to wrestle the most? Like anybody in the world, who would you want to wrestle the most? Like in a real match.
Weight class?
In your weight class.
I mean, I want my rematch with Gilman if he wants to come up to 61. But besides that, it sucks that he just retired. All the credit to him. Besides that, I'd like to wrestle Bacharov again because I lost to him. I really want to wrestle Higuchi because I think that'd be a really cool match. But he's a 57
That was my guess.
Plus, if we could do it in Japan, that'd be dope. I would definitely love that.
There's something appealing about those Japanese wrestlers because Yanni said Odaguro, right?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Vito and Spencer.
Oh yeah.
Or Vito and RBY in freestyle. That'd be a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those would all be great.
I think those would be pretty fun as well.
All right. Well, we're at the end of our time here. Vito, thanks for coming on, man. Last thing here, the floor is yours for any plugs that you haven't already plugged. Anything else that you want to mention?
That was hilarious.
Yeah, man. Quick plug. I have some apparel for sale. The link is in my bio. Hopefully we'll be working on a shoe that's coming out, within the foreseeable future. I think that's on the horizon. It's in the works. Obviously, go buy the Yanni shoe right now, and then
Perfect.
yeah, that's it. Thanks.
All right. Well, like I said, man, it was great having you on here. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you compete some more.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to get out of here. Thanks. You have a good rest of your day.